I was just reminding why we are here tonight or this morning for you, Will. It's because we are organizing a rebellion, or we are organizing the rebellion this autumn. We have, in the past months, we organized ourselves to get efficient for this, and now we are in the mobilization phase of our strategy. In a few days, we are going to launch an ultimatum to the Federal Council, asking it to tell the truth about the climate and ecological emergency and to act accordingly. And this ultimatum will be accompanied by a petition through which people can show their support to the use of non-violent civil disobedience if we are not heard. And this means that if until October nothing has happened, we will shut down the largest city of Switzerland, staying there so long as needed until we are heard and until our government acts toward the huge crisis that is in course or attending us. So now we are putting a lot of efforts in mobilizing people from all over the country, from all backgrounds, and we are still struggling for this. We are few people trying to do it, and we are trying out some methods and experiencing things. And fortunately, there are people who have more experience than us, and this is why you are here today, Will, to tell us about your experience and training us. And we are really looking forward to hearing you and to get inspired by what you have to tell us. So thank you very much for being here. And it's up to you now.
Okay. Gosh, I hope I haven't been oversold here. I mean, all right. That sounds really, really inspiring. So basically what's going on here in Portland is we've developed two methodologies of mobilization and fundraising, and they're working together. One aspect of it is, you know, canvassing the whole area. You know, choosing an area in our town that, you know, is like ripe for mobilization, and then you know, spending time canvassing it. We put up posters, but the main thing that we're doing is we're putting up stalls or what's called tabling in the US, where we put down a table and we stand there and kind of wave people down and talk to them and get them involved in the movement. I think the most important aspect of this is time. Like, it takes a lot of time to cultivate people this way. You know, I'll be out there for 4 hours or 6 hours, and I might find 20 people interested, or I might be somewhere around 5 or 6 or 7. It just depends on a little bit of luck, and, you know, how I'm feeling that day might make a difference, or the weather could make a difference. But let me, do I have share screen ability? Yeah, I do. Okay, cool. So let me go ahead and show you all kind of what my tabling method looks like. And this is, I mean, obviously, you know, this is it. I'll just show it to you. All right, so let's see. So this is my table as of August of last year. I decided to, at the time, I wanted a big tent so that I could get like everybody's attention, and people would be like, "Oh man, what is that tent?" what's going on over there? And I had a couple of posters, and I had a box of buttons and some hand sanitizer. And I did not have really any way for people to sign up. I didn't have any way other than getting their email address and putting it in my phone. But I probably signed up 100 people, and here's Adelaide. She was helping me. We probably signed up 100 people over a couple of weeks at this spot next to City Hall.
I don't know if you're showing us pictures, Will, but we only see your Zoom tab.
Oh, I'll try again. Hold on.
Thank you.
Share screen. Oh, there we go. This is probably right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's the tent. Thank you.
Okay, so there's the tent. So we had a couple posters that were pasted to the table. The idea being, we've got the demands on the table, we've got the principles and values, a little scan QR code. I don't remember what it's for, maybe for donating or something, and some buttons in a little box and some hand sanitizer. Here's Adelaide. Now we signed up about 100 people, but all we would get is like an email or maybe a phone, but we probably had 2 phone numbers and 100 emails. And it was very unuseful. Nothing came of that. Even though we signed up a lot of people. Here's another table right before a We Want to Live action. I was just hanging out. I guess that's the last photo I have of that summer, but I ended up doing this method, revising it and creating more and more things around it. And eventually I ended up in Los Angeles, which is like 1,000 miles south. And by this time I had a clipboard. I don't know if you can see it on there, but I had more professional flyers, I had more professional buttons, and I had a shirt. And I would sort of, offer people the shirt in exchange for, them helping me for the day, or if they signed up for like a monthly subscription, I would be like, hey, here's a free shirt. And then I would like, as a matter of goodwill, because we're not allowed to sell things, right? But if they sign up for like a monthly donation, then I can just, oh, here's a shirt, At this point, I also started putting books on the table. So I would put Roger's book is in this photo, Roger Hallam's book. And the buttons are now laid out in front. And that was important because people would kind of like rifle through the buttons, and like it wasn't very sanitary with COVID and everything going on. So having all the buttons out in front was smart. Here's another photo on Melrose. Now, the pandemic was really strong in Los Angeles, so my canvassing experience was much different. But what I did learn in LA was that it made a big difference, because in Portland, I could just say, do you want to talk about climate change? And people would stop. But in LA, it was a different story. People did not want to stop, and asking about climate change wasn't really working. And one day, some people were coming by my table, and they're like, "Oh, that's that guy who wants to save the planet, and don't worry about him," or something like that. And I was like, "Oh," light went on in my head. And then from that moment on, I would ask everybody, "Hey, do you want to talk about saving the planet?" And it probably picked me up about 50%. So little things like that. Anyways, I had flyers and stuff. So this is still Los Angeles. This is trying to incorporate. See, these are helpers. So these people helped me for the day. I gave them some of my the tips that people had given me, and they helped, flyer and pass out flyers and talk to people. I was hoping for a more long-term relationship, but as I was kind of I wasn't permanently stationed in Los Angeles, there wasn't a whole lot I could do for like a long-term relationship, but they helped out a bit. And as you can see, I started bringing more books out. So at this point, I've got 5 or 6 books on the table. Some of them are related to XR, some aren't. And, it's offering more things to talk about. And also I had additional masks so I can hand out masks to people, because in Venice Beach, nobody was wearing a mask. Let's see. So now I'm back in Portland. With everything I've learned from Los Angeles, and I've bought some additional flyers. So I've got additional paraphernalia. So this one says Beyond Politics, and this one over here says like autonomy and decentralization. So I've got, these are kind of like, they call them, so around here they might call them like zines or, literature. So these little things I thought were important, because oftentimes in these small conversations, I would never be able to talk about, citizens' assemblies or decentralization. And so these 2 little pamphlets help in that I can make my pitch about why they should join Extinction Rebellion, and then I can give them some literature that they could like read later on. Here's more of my my table setup in Portland. And then I really liked the idea of having literature, so I added 2 additional ones. So I added one about nonviolence and one about telling the truth. And so now I've got 4 pieces of literature that I can give people. And at this point, I also, I got away from the, before, I don't know if you can see this, but back here, I just had a clipboard. And so I would get everybody on a clipboard, and I would go home and I would write everybody up. But that was kind of slow. And so at this point I don't know if you can see this, but right here is a QR code. So people could scan a QR code. And what I had is basically a poll. It just asks them some questions. And at the end of the poll, it goes to a donation page. And at this point, this was January of this year, we probably had 20 people, maybe 15 people in Portland giving monthly, because of everything we had done last summer, and because, the core team was all giving monthly donations. But this poll the hope with this poll was that it would help with fundraising, because now instead of signing them up physically, all of their information is sent automatically into the system once they finish the poll, and then they have an opportunity to donate. And this proved to be pretty good. So the little QR code scan was pretty good. Here's some more folks signing up. These weren't really people that stuck around for very long. They were just really excited, and so I asked them if I could take their picture for Instagram. At this point, I had a flyer for an action. So we had a March 27th action. It was a really nice flyer. It was very small though. And I probably passed out, 500 of these at the table, maybe not 500, maybe 200 or 300, just to people going by. And people sounded really excited, but the flyers didn't really bring anybody in. So back to the drawing board. For the May Rebellion, that was March. So for the May Rebellion that we had here in Portland, instead of a flyer, I would print up these gigantic posters, 11 by 17 posters, and I'd give these to people instead. This ended up being a lot better idea. So people would take home the poster, they'd put it up on their wall or their microwave or something, and they'd look at it every day, and then they would come to the action. So that was much better. And I wasn't just handing them to people. I was, giving them to people who I had successfully canvassed. So this has been, I think this was a big difference. And now I don't even want to give people buttons. I just want to give everybody posters, but people still want the buttons. So I give them the buttons as well. You may also notice that I've taken off all the other books. So all the other books that had anything to do with, you know, civil disobedience and stuff, I kind of got rid of them. The problem was they were kind of distracting. Like, you know, we'd be talking about this or that, and then they'd pick up a picture of a book about Greta Thunberg, and then we would just end up talking about Greta, and then nothing really would happen. Like they wouldn't sign up or whatever. It's very easy for people to get off track. But I guess I'll get into that in a minute. So let me see here. So here's the current rebellion. So we've got a solstice coming up in 10 days. I've got 2 posters now for that action. So we've got a red one and a green one. So the idea being, one, I'm not using just one color ink, and so I could make my ink last longer. Also, there's some variety, like they might like one or the other, or they might like them both. And then they're just like, hey, I really like both your posters. You guys sound great. Let's see. So somebody gave me, one of our team members gave me a thing to stand up stuff. And so at first I thought, you know, okay, cool, I'm going to put all of these. But then I think I got down to just, okay, I just need to stand up the 2 books that I want to feature. So This Is Not a Drill and Roger's book. And that's kind of where I am right now. So I'm still using the poll. I now have some additional tiny little stickers that I'm giving to kids. And I've got these books set up. And every once in a while, you know, I sell books, or if they sign up for a monthly subscription, I give them a free book or something like that. I mean, you know, obviously the idea is, you know, I'm trying to retain people. And yeah, and so basically, whenever somebody signs up, they go into our system, and I give them a text that night. And then the following day, I usually give them a phone call. And then I might call them one more time because I left a message, or, you know, I sent them a calendar of events via email. And then I kind of just leave it at that and hope for the best. I mean, I don't really have enough time to call them more than once or twice. Send them an email, send them a text. But for a week, I leave them in a pool, and I send them texts about all the meetings. But then after a week, if they haven't shown up to a meeting or shown interest, then I take them out of that pool too. And you know, people show up to meetings and stuff. But you know, it's difficult. I would say the way the numbers break down is like, you know, maybe half their people are going to come to an action. Maybe half of them are going to do some kind of donation or something like that, and nothing else. And then a small percentage are going to do both. But off the bat, for the first month, usually people don't really get involved. Usually it's like after about a month or so, then they start showing up to an action or a meeting or something. So it takes time to cultivate people, because, you know, they already had a schedule in mind and everything, and they might not even end up joining, even if they like the idea or whatever. So a little bit about what I talk about when I'm talking to people. I have a script. So it basically starts with, you know, talking about saving the planet. What do you think about climate change? Then we go into the demands. So, you know, have we declared a climate emergency? You know, what's the date? 2050. Oh, what do you think about 2050? And then once I establish that, you know, that they're legitimately concerned about the situation, like if I don't have to do any education or anything, then I'll go into the Extinction Rebellion. If I have to do a lot of education, or if there's a lot of back and forth, and I'll kind of try to get them, you know, away from the table, because chances are they're too far out of the orbit to really get involved right now. But if they do seem like they're really close to our orbit, then then I'll go into the whole Extinction Rebellion. This is Extinction Rebellion. Like I won't mention really Extinction Rebellion unless they're really, really actually listening to what I'm saying and everything. I'll tell them the demands. I'll say, you know, we believe in civil disobedience. You know, we've done X, Y, and Z. We're going to do A, B, and C. So this is important, like to have a storytelling aspect of it. So this is what we've done so far, right? This is our story. This is where we've been. And then this is what we're going to do, like A, B, and C. And you know, you showing enthusiasm for your history and your upcoming action, I think is like one of the main things that pushes them over the top at this point. Because up until here, you're just a person who's been talking to them, but now you're like, okay, now we need you to come to an action. Now we need you to come to a meeting, or now we need you to, you know, give some money monthly. Or I know that sounds crazy, and you know, who knows, maybe that's not always the best thing to ask, especially if they're youth, right? Because youth don't really have money. So but getting them to come to an action and come to a meeting and stuff, and then you know, once I make that sort of ask, then I say, if you'd like to help out, here's our poll, right? And they scan the poll on their phone. If they look on their edge, like, oh, I don't know if I want to scan this, I offer them a button or something and say, you know, here's a button if you do this. And this is a 3 or 4 minute conversation. So I would practice this, actually. That's the one thing that I wish, if I could go back in time, I would do, is practice this as a 3 or 4 minute conversation, because it's really easy, I think, in the beginning to make this into a 7 or 8 minute conversation. And it's too late. They may love you at the end of that 7 or 8 minutes, but they're not going to make the next step because you've already taken up, you know, that much of their time. But if it's 3 or 4 minutes, then you make your ask, they're still, their interest is still piqued, right? And so they're much more likely to do something. So keeping it in the 3 or 4 minute range. Maybe it's different in Switzerland. Maybe people have more time or something, but in the States, they don't really have time. And so 3 or 4 minutes is the maximum. So I would practice with each other, getting through the whole thing. Okay, clock it to see how long it takes. That's one of the major things I kind of regret, is I didn't have enough discipline to do that. And it also gets in your head what you want to say, so that when people are throwing you off track, you know how to bring it back in to like the important elements of what needs to be said. You know, because some people, they just want to talk about, you know, a documentary that they read, or, you know, whatever, or that they saw or something. So I think that's probably enough. I guess I should go into Q&A now a little bit. What do you all think? Do you have any questions about this?
Yes, a lot. Nice.
Thanks a lot, Will. It's really interesting to hear your progression as well, and all the reflection you've been doing to improve every little detail. You've been talking a lot about getting people to come to meetings or to actions. So does that mean that the pipeline is not to try and first get them to like a Heading for Extinction conference and thereafter an NVDA training? How do you guys do this?
So I think the problem with this methodology right now is that we're not getting a critical mass of people. So if I'm only able to pull in a couple of people a week, I'd rather have them come to a meeting and be like, oh, meet everybody. You know, what's your story? Have you ever thought about getting arrested? Asking them questions and getting them to open up, rather than bringing them to a heading for extinction, and then the only person there, and then they get talked down to kind of, and then they just get overwhelmed, and then they just go and do something else. But you know, they could be a great person, but only have a small bandwidth to, maybe they just want to show up to an action or just want to run a little social media account or something. So I think the heading for extinction talk is good if you could get like, you know, 10 or 15 people in the room at once. But for me, for our movement, we've only been able to bring in a couple people a week with this method, with just one person doing it. So I'm the only person that tables.
So you'd say, sorry, François, can I keep going? You'd say the idea is to let them first get a sense of community by coming to meetings, and then when you have enough newcomers, you would try to organize a heading for extinction talk for people to go all together, for instance.
Yeah, I think because we do have heading for extinction talks happening like in our orbit, like they'll naturally just kind of like find their way over to it. Like they'll be like, oh, what's this, you know, or something like that.
One thing we've noticed here is that sometimes in some contexts we tend to have a lot of people joining who have never been to see the conferences and then never go, and actually they never really fully grasp one, the emergency, and two, the strategy of the movement, and then they question everything, and it's a lot of effort to just get these people to understand the point after they've been there for several months and feel that they understand the whole movement and really own it, but the basics are still like different.
Yeah, I mean, if I, that's why I give out all those little pamphlets in the beginning, those 4 little pamphlets. That really explains, like, this is what nonviolence is. This is what, you know, telling the truth is. I mean, I don't know if it really works that well, but also there's videos online. Like I could tell them, like, go watch Gail Bradbrook's video, or go watch Roger's video, or something like that. But I haven't really had an issue with people, like you say, like grasping the gravity of the situation. I don't think they do, like, but nobody really does. So, I mean, I don't know, but yeah, you're right. Like if you can get them to take a deep dive into it, they might get more interested. Or yeah.
My question was more about, as I understood it, in the UK, they had like a big event coming, and that's what made people come and join the XR, because there was like a big plan, a huge plan. And do you think that's something that will make people join more when you have like an action coming? And so how do you organize yourself in Portland to have like a next step for people so that they come, and to increase the rate of people joining with this kind of, yeah, sorry, my English is also not so good, but I hope you understand my question, like having a next step.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are really wary of anything that has to do with steps here in the United States. Like, unfortunately, like they have like allergic reaction to, like, you know, 1, 2, 3 they kind of just want to feel like they can do it. But we do have an issue with, you know, retention and getting people involved in bigger and bigger things. Most of what I do is I do like repeatable actions. So we have, you know, yellow vests, and we have banners, and then I try to get people to come out and block traffic, and you know, pass out flyers and stuff like that. And usually it's just a matter of safety. Like the more safety you show, the more respect you show for their time and energy, the more likely they are to do it again and again. But there still is an issue with retention. Like somebody will move away or, you know, go do something else. And we haven't hit a critical mass of people yet. Like the most we've had is maybe 100 people in the street. So we're still trying to remake the magic that they did in the UK.
What we are trying to do now here, or what we try to implement, is that we are doing outreach actions to invite people to the talk, and then it's when they, after the talk, they can that they can fill out this poll, not at the stall. And then we invite them to an NVDA training where they meet other people, they learn things about doing civil disobedience. And then it's after they've attended the NVDA training that they take on action. And what we observed, we haven't started for a long time, but is that having this view on October, people know it's something big is going to happen, is very, very mobilizing, because they know why they are doing what they are doing. And this is something we can really communicate through the talk, during the talk. And our strategy was really to have these outreach actions to invite people coming and learning about what we are doing and why. And yes, I think if it works well, we will just share our experience with you and other groups. But it's also interesting to hear that you are that you have other experiences, and for sure we can learn from this. And my question was, when I heard about this Portland method for the first time, they were also talking about postering and flyering. And I was wondering if you do this, how you do this, and if it's it comes in complement with the stalls.
Yeah, I mean, the problem, well, I mean, the postering and flyering is really, really expensive and time consuming, but it's also very fun. And it looks cool, and like it adds to the culture of the whole thing. So I used to do it a lot, and but now I mostly try to get other people to do it. So, I think the most effective thing is to actually, you know, try to engage people and talk to them. And then if you could do both, if you could have posters up and engaging them, then you're doing really good. But right now it's like whenever people come to a meeting, you know, they show up, and like you said, they haven't done the Heading for Extinction talk or anything like that. But I'll say, like, you know, who's willing to put up posters, right? And then, you know, somebody will raise their hand. Okay, we got 10 posters for you, 10 posters for you. And then they'll come by my house or whatever, take the posters. And I would say that's like 100% of the people who show up almost are going to be going out and putting up posters, and they're getting involved and they're doing something. So I think that's valuable. That just in itself is very valuable. So yeah, I think, you know, with the progression, I think in the beginning it might be just you doing it, and then eventually more people will do it.
So in terms of, like, what's the most valuable thing you're trying to get from people? It's the phone number, right? Because that's how you're able to build a personal relationship and maybe get them to join the next step. Or it's not a step, just join the next best thing.
So on the poll, the phone number and email are both required. And the reality is that I think if they don't give you both, then they're holding back, you know, and it might not be gonna, some people legitimately hold back because, you know, they've only got a Proton mail and that's it, and then they'll come to your meetings or something. I don't know what they'll do, but I think, yeah, you go for both. go for the email and text. And it might help to say, like, you know, do you have a text? Because nobody answers the phone in the United States anyways, 1 out of 10. But they can understand that you want to send text and you want to send email.
What's the dimension? What are the dimensions of your stall? Like, we are trying to write like guides for our local groups in Switzerland, and yeah, how they can start the best way to do stalling, etc. So, do you have like, yes, is it an heavy stall, or what the dimensions, etc.? Do you have, yeah, is it important or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could go smaller. I mean, it fits on my bike. I put it on my bike trailer and tow it around. But yeah, I think you could go smaller. I would say the silliest thing is that I got into this button thing, and I feel like I just make buttons all the time, when I could have just done stickers. I think it would have been just as popular. So if I could do it all over again, I just would have done stickers. But yeah, obviously it's a pretty big stall. It's probably 6 feet across. But you know, it's attention getting. Having professionality is also important. I don't know. I think some people are really good at being personal and like having a conversation and just pulling people in. But for me, it's like, just, hey, we want to talk about the climate. And they look down, and they look at the table, and then they're like, okay, all right. I don't know. So yeah, especially for where I am too. So I'm sitting on a street where people are, you know, buying platform shoes and, you know, eating at fancy restaurants and stuff, and maybe not fancy, but like hipster kind of like restaurants and stuff. You know, buying vintage clothing and recycled clothing. It's a really cool spot. So I have a lot of them up against, you know, to get their attention, right? So having a really well-designed thing is pretty important, because I couldn't get youth at all when I first started. I never ever get a youth to stop, and now I'm surprised if a youth doesn't stop, because it's so colorful and it's so eye-catching. So it makes a big difference to have a really good-looking setup.
And how do you decide where you're going to put your stall? Are you always at the same place, or are you also going to residential? Ça se dit comme ça?
Residential area, yeah.
Areas, or in the city centers? How are you deciding on which criteria?
Well, I mean, the one I'm at is like 10 blocks from my house, so it's really easy. But there's probably about 5 or 6 areas like that in Portland that have high commercial, right? A lot of you know, people traveling, you know, tourists. All these people are important because they add something to it. Like, signing somebody up that's all the way across the country, 3,000 miles away, is valuable to our system, because now we've got people all over the place. But going back to the same place also adds a sense of community. Like, so I always go back to that same spot, and you know, if people see you 5 or 6 times, they're eventually going to stop and talk to you, and sign up. You know, just yesterday I got somebody who signed up who I met last summer. So going back to the same spot is important. I don't think it would be worth it if you don't have a high foot traffic. Like, I think you could tell in the first couple of hours, you know, if you're going to be, you know, signing up 5 or 6 people at least a day. Like, I think you have to at least have one person every hour signing up. because the turnover rate is, I mean, the success rate of them just signing up isn't enough. Like they have to actually show up to an action, I think, or a meeting. But yeah, I would say the major thing is like the problem with like a park, like we have like 6 farmers markets here, and some of the farmers markets have like 1 or 2 entrances or exits, and that's the one that I want to go to, right? I don't want to go to a farmers market that you can approach from any direction, like it's just in a park. You're only going to get 1 out of 30 people, and people will still avoid you too because they know you're not part of the farmers market, and so they can just avoid you. That's a major problem too. Is like you're out there and you're looking professional and good, but people realize that that could be expensive, so they don't want to encounter you.
Do you tend to stay behind your table, or do you actually wander around and try to intercept people?
I've done a little bit of both, but I think the best success has been if I'm behind the table. I wander out if I need more confidence, or I need to get flyers out, because some people will just pass by and say, no, I'm not interested. And then I'll say, how about some literature? And I'll jump out from behind the table and I'll give them a flyer. But it takes a lot more work to do that. I don't know. More behind the table.
And did you find it worked better or less well if you're several people?
Good question. So it needs to be like just one person. The problem with 2 people is that you get like pistons. So like you get 2 people coming at them and it becomes too much pressure. Even though it's a short 3 or 4 minute script, and like, you know, I'm saying exactly this, there's still this personal element to it. And so they can't really have a personal conversation with 2 different people. It's much harder. So yeah, it really has to be one person, or if there's a second person, they should just be silently watching or looking at their phone and listening. And then afterwards you can kind of discuss how it went, kind of thing.
But you don't notice that people would be drawn by you more if they see 2 people who look like their friends, who are joking around together. Because if you're just one person standing silent, you could be any sort of character and you could be an unpleasant person. But if it looks like already 2 people who get on well with each other, isn't it a bit more engaging?
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, it could be better to have more people, but I think to remember that when you have more people, you have a big advantage, and not to put too much pressure on them, probably. But if you don't push too much pressure, it might be really good. Yeah.
And you told that you were inviting people to come to action or to meetings. What are you then doing during these meetings? Are you just telling the people what they could do? Are you like proposing some roles, or how do you engage people during the meetings?
So we have 2 meetings a week. Our action meeting is on Monday, and our mobilization meeting is on Wednesday. And but I call it a community meeting. And so at the community meeting, the main thing is, who wants to get out and do posters or something like that. I go over all the statistics and stuff because it sounds official, like, oh, we gained 59 members this week. We sent out this many emails, we sent out this many texts. This many people are now giving monthly, plus this, plus that, and a lot of statistics. And then also during the community meeting, have like a little bit of education, like maybe like a 5-minute workshop, or maybe a video, like, oh, look at this is the Red Rebel Brigade, look at what they did, and here are some comments, or this is this great new video that came from the UK or some other place, and comments. And There may be other things like workshops and stuff, but that's still in development. But that's kind of the idea, is like quick 5-minute, it's Zoom, so like there's only so much you can do. And then we have like additional positions, like, oh, does anybody want to become a rebel captain? Like, so the rebel captain is like somebody you get 4 numbers of people, and then it's your job to like rally them up. So like, so there's like little tiny like micro tasks they can do, that they can sign up for. And then the action meeting on Monday is all about the action. So this one sounds, I didn't make this one up. This is Tomio's idea, the other person, but she's basically, she's got a huge list of tasks that need to be done at the action. And like, the action will probably happen whether or not we get all this stuff done, but it sounds really professional to be going down this whole list. And so it's like, who will be doing media? And, oh, you'll be doing media, and who will be doing this, and who will be blocking traffic, and who will be checking people in. And okay, and you've got this huge list, and we're filling in the list. And even when you've got like 6 or 7 people, it's like, oh, I know this person who's going to be there, and they're going to do that, right? And so you don't really have to have everybody there like volunteering to do these things on the spot. It's more of a like a general idea of who's going to be there and who's going to do what. So even if we've only got 12 people there, we could be setting up the action for like 20 different roles or 30 different roles, because we know who's going to be there and who's going to be doing what. And that takes up like half of the action meeting. And then there's usually a part in the beginning of both meetings for new people, and like getting them introduced and stuff like that, and finding out who they are and whether they're arrestable. And then I also, both meetings, I try to do like, new rebel rising stars, like to accommodate people, like, oh, this person got 10 flyers out this week, or this person made 5 phone calls, or so like rewarding people for their time, and that kind of thing. And then also in the action meeting, it might be also another workshop or a video or something like that to kind of show what Extinction Rebellion has been doing and stuff. But we try to keep it very focused on Extinction Rebellion. So we're not advertising for other groups or anything like that. But yeah.
We've tried to do newcomers meeting in a new way in the local group I am in. But what I've experienced is that new people, they are really motivated to do a lot of things, but what they think or what they say is, oh, I want to do this, but later, because I'm not ready yet. I'm not experienced. I don't feel ready to do it right now. And I find it quite tricky to get them engaged very quickly without actually disengaging them because they feel pressure or yes, and I feel like we have to find a balance between like getting in touch with them, contacting them personally, giving them pathway to actions, but not to make them afraid of what we are doing or having too many expectations. So if I understood well, you said before that if one person doesn't give you an answer after 1 week, you just take it out of the list. Is that true? Or are you still getting in touch with them constantly just to trying to reactivate them or not? Because I think this is for me, this is the most tricky part of the mobilization.
Yeah, I don't know how well it's gonna work, how well it's working, but I still, even if they haven't, even if they haven't been around for a while, I still send them videos and tell them when the big action's coming up in case they want to come, or, you know, but much less. So, you know, we have I don't ever take somebody off the list unless they ask to be off the list. So we've got about 1,000 people that we text, you know, if a video comes out or something, and then the video will go up to like 200 views. And so they're seeing what's going on. So I'm hoping that speaks for itself, that having a really good video and stuff will interest them.
Do you actually use group chats or info channels, and does that work, or does that precisely not work?
I don't have enough time for it, but other people are doing them. So I guess it works. It depends on who's got time for it.
Because I think here we've relied a lot too heavily for 2 years on asking people to follow, like expecting people to follow what we throw at them, and never have actual personal contacts or phoning people directly, texting people directly. And we're starting to pivot towards more of these direct contacts. But yeah, so that's something we've noticed.
Yeah, I think the direct contact is better, because I think there's a critical mass inside these group chats. Like once you get past 7 people or 8 people, like you can't have a conversation. Everything gets lost.
We are a bit bombarding you with questions. My question was, yeah, you on the document you showed before, it was written you used like not people don't sign up on a sheet, but like online. Is it right? When you are at the store.
Yeah. So what I have is a poll. So it's a Google poll, but it's embedded on a website. So that it's a little bit of a trick that when they finish the Google form, it takes them to a donation page right away. And also if they're a youth, so I have a different poll for the youth. If they're youth, it takes them to a page where they can volunteer or do a rebel pledge. So like the rebel pledge is like, I pledge to get arrested, or to do an arrestable action, or to support arrestable actions. Or the volunteer is like, you know, I volunteer to help do XYZ or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. I think it helps. I mean, it really, really helps, because I mean, the reality is that, you know, they're probably not going to go to a donation page or a volunteer page after they just did a form. But if it automatically went there and you go, oh, it went to that next thing, and that next thing is really important because X, Y, and Z, you know, could you do that? They're much more likely to do something additional.
And like you use an iPad or your phone or to make them sign up?
Their phone usually. I have a phone too. If they're having trouble with the QR code, I can lend them my phone, or a pad if you have that. And I also, you know, 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 people might not want to use any kind of thing, and you just sign them up on a spreadsheet or something. That's always an option too. But most of the people go through the poll.
What's your poll about? Because it's mostly a pretext to ask them to donate, if I understand correctly, or?
Yeah, I'll post the poll. So the poll is kind of, it's a little bit of a white lie, kind of, because, you know, I mean, it should just be about, you know, I mean, we have a huge bias in that we want them to come to an action, and we want them to be part of the community and stuff. So, so the poll, it asks something like, do you want to be now it asks if people want to be arrested. It didn't ask that before. So this is the current poll. I don't know.
And Gilbert also wrote in the chat that he really loved what you explained, and that could you please hand us the Canvas script, which I'm sure we'll get from you.
Yeah. Here's the so here's my my stalling presentation. So this is all the notes for my stall, and the canvassing script is at the bottom of it. So yeah, the poll is a bit of a white lie. So it's not really a poll, but go ahead.
So what do you tell to people in 3-4 minutes to ask them after if they are ready to get arrested? Because for me, it's something really important if you want to engage in the rebellion. And this really comes, in my view, this comes from what people learn during the Heading for Extinction talk, because they learn about the situation, how horrific it is, and then they understand why we are doing nonviolent civil disobedience and why it's absolutely necessary they get arrested. How can you transmit this message to people in 3 minutes of a conversation with them?
So I mean, so this is highly debatable. So last year when I was doing the physical signups, we asked everybody, like, do you want to would you be willing to get arrested, or would you be willing to risk arrest? And it was like right there, we put them on the spot. The problem with that methodology was that with multiple people there, we had an issue with whatever the first person said, everybody else would say the same thing. So it's like so there's a weird bias there. But then when I did the last 800 poll signups so far this year, we took out that question, and it was no longer, if they want to get arrested or not. But they were doing it on their private phone, so their answers no longer matched up. So that was good. We solved one problem, but we no longer asked about the arrest because I felt like it was, like I said, it would be a white lie. But then last week, so for the past 36 signups, I've been asking people if they want to get arrested in the thing. And I guess the response has been, let's see, it looks like we've got 17% of the people have said yes, and 25% have said maybe. So it looks like people are saying, now that's good, right? Because now when I call them up, I could say, oh, are you still interested in getting arrested? Or did you just say that, because obviously a lot of people are just going to say that. And also, yeah, so that's, I mean, it's really good to get them so to say that, because then, yeah, you can bring it back up to them later. And then they may still be on the fence, but then when you're actually at the action, they may change their mind again and be like, oh yeah, I do want to do that. So I don't know. I'm not big on a lot of formality.
And so do you never run into people being very suspicious of the fact that you're asking for their personal ID and the fact that they want to be arrested?
I thought that was for sure going to happen, but nobody has been suspicious yet. I guess
can have long hair too. I mean, okay, well, good to know.
If they're suspicious, they just won't put their information in. But most people put their information in, so I don't know. I'm getting really good results, but I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been on the same corner for so long.
Are you doing this every day?
Yeah, every day I can. Yeah.
Wow.
I think, sorry, this is Swiss stuff, but I think we should get the people who tried in Zurich and in Biel and in Lausanne on the market on a call one of these days to swap. Like, I think they had a pretty successful market routine in Lausanne, but I've never known the details of how they did it.
I think they have written a guideline, but what they were doing is like proposing activities for kids and doing like t-shirts, printings and stuff like this.
Mm.
Mm. So do you have something else to tell us? This was the method to ask for fundraising, or you just spoke about both things together? Like,
yeah, so when it comes to fundraising, it's important to be straightforward about it. So saying, you know, people are giving $5-10 a month, or saying something like, you know, if you give $5 or $10 a month, which is about the cost of like maybe a cup of coffee or a book, right? A cheap book. So it's not much, but being straightforward about it is important. Also, you know, letting them know that it's a monthly contribution ahead of time, so that they don't see it on their phone later, like that, oh my gosh, I'm getting charged monthly. So yeah, being straightforward and honest is the best way to get them. But it is an issue, I think, where a lot of people will just donate and then forget about it, and then they think, okay, I did that and that's it. And some people will even like unsubscribe from emails immediately and say stop text immediately, but they're donating monthly. But yeah. It's pretty much, I guess, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's different. It was much different than in Los Angeles than it was in Portland. And so I imagine how it's going to be in Switzerland will be different. Maybe it'll be better. Maybe it'll be worse. I don't know. I think you guys might do better than us because you have more social programs, right? Better social safety net.
Talking about how it was different in different cities. So here in Switzerland, we have over 20 different cantons with like 4 or 5 national languages. And people are very attached to their local identity, and they will explain everything by this local identity. So it's very hard to make people understand that perhaps something that's worked somewhere else will work in their city, because they would just tend to say, oh no, it would work over there, but never here, for instance. And sometimes it might be true, sometimes it might be wrong, but you can't really find out without having tried. So how much, like, if you had to say the proportion of things that, like, the tricks you found that make you really successful, are most of them universal breakthroughs, like, oh, actually this is this super important universal thing about my stall that will appeal to human beings? And how much is down to details of the, as you said, about the phrasing in different cities or that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying is correct. I mean, it'd be great if we had time to explain to them like the importance of solidarity or transnational activism or something like that. But the problem is that, again, once it becomes an education about identity or something like that, then that's all it's really going to be about. So that's why I think that the 3 or 4 minute conversation is so important. It's that, you know, if they are really, you know, if they are really holding too strong to some specific identity, you may only be able to reach them in one way.
Sorry, I think I was not clear. It's more our rebels who will not try some things because they believe it's something only for people in another canton. Like, oh, in this canton, people don't want to talk on the market because they're so shy, and it only works in Romandie, or the opposite. So what you've noticed, like things that you've learned while practicing that work with people, do you think that most things you've learned will apply anywhere in the United States? Or actually it's so important to specifically tailor to the local culture of the city you're in? Is that, do you think you see what I mean with that?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it will depend on the identity. I think you will have to make some accommodations for the specific. I think you could probably table anywhere, but yeah, the script may have to change for the local identities and for the local demands and what the issues are and stuff as well, a little bit possibly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're lucky here in Portland because they've already declared a climate emergency, and so we don't even have to. We can just talk about net zero a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I
What I personally feel among rebels is that it's not really exciting or motivating for them just to go on the street and staying behind the stall and trying to talk to people. Because when we talk about the rebellion, people think, oh, it's about taking actions, doing civil disobedience, and something really exciting. And how do you communicate with people to tell them that it's sometimes we have to do things that are not really fun, but that are necessary just to achieve our goal? And I think we struggle with this. How can we mobilize people to do mobilization?
I mean, I could just speak from my own experience, and like a lot of what we're doing is delegitimizing this establishment, by occupying their streets, by, ending up here or there, doing huge civil disobedience. I think it's a major delegitimization of the entire establishment to have somebody standing there on the corner, like recruiting people for a rebellion against the government. Like, so I mean, I hope that would get people excited. Yeah. And then having little tiny pamphlets that say things like, we're in rebellion, that might be exciting in and of itself. I don't know.
I have a logistic question, because you seem to be giving away a lot of books. Well, a lot, I don't know, but sometimes to be giving away books. How do you source all these books at a price that allows you to give away things that are worth like 10 subscriptions at $5 a month?
I mean, I make sure that people pay for the books. I don't give them away.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I misunderstood that, sorry.
Yeah. And also I'm also a salary employee as well. So I have a salary as of last August. I was tabling before that, but yeah, now I'm full time. Yeah, I don't suggest giving anything more than 50 cents away. Like,
okay.
People say all kinds of crazy stuff.
Okay, I think I'm running out of questions. How about you guys? Julian, do you have questions? You've been very quiet.
Yes, I had some questions, but they've been asked by now. Lots of material or like input that we can try out here. I think we have to learn from our own experiences here in Switzerland and just do it. Just try it out. But no specific questions.
And another one, but maybe that's not the strategy you've been following, but have you tried to, I don't know how to say that, like infiltrate communities, as in try to find an entry point into the local church community or whatever, and find one or two people that might get excited, and then hope that these people will actually allow you to come and give a presentation or get their network excited, so that you make a big breakthrough into a bunch of people at the same time?
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard of Food Not Bombs, but I'm good friends with this group that's a vegan group that they basically give away free food. And I didn't know them before Extinction Rebellion, but they started showing up to my stuff, to my like little workshops or whatever that I was having at the time. And so I spend, a couple days a month, showing up to their events and talking to them and keeping that relationship strong. But it was already a relationship I already had. So, and they were already interested. So, but I do spend a certain amount of time maintaining that. So I don't know that, I guess, so I haven't really, I'm really risk averse as far as that's concerned. I don't want to make a big risk and, go and make an announcement and then have nobody show up.
Wow. Gilbert, did you have any thoughts or questions that came up? Can you still hear us?
Yes, I'm still present. But I think it's a really, really, really hard topic, and I really enjoyed listening to Will, and also about his enthusiasm, and he's really a great guy. And thanks very much for having you here.
Well, thank you very much.
We will be holding a stall on Saturday and on Monday here in Biel, in Switzerland, and I'm really looking forward to it because I think we will apply your tips, but not with the same purpose, because our purpose is to invite people to the talk, and we also made postering, flyering, and so on. I'm really looking forward to the results of this, and yes, to learn about how we can really get this critical mass. Yes.
Actually, something I just realized was that you said that all the meetings are on Zoom at the moment, right, Will? Because we do have an advantage here that we can have meetings with people in real life nowadays. So like, I guess it would be good if we also had online events, especially like country-wise, so people who don't want or can't or live in like less dense areas can also join. But for sure, inviting people to real life events at the moment is a big advantage because they've been isolated for so long.
Yeah, I would suggest having the ability to zoom in. I don't know. Having somebody come in via like a laptop or something and do a regular meeting, that might be fun. I don't know. But that's like necessary here because we like I said, we're still in lockdown. We don't maybe out of it soon. We'll see.
Okay, well, I guess we'll report back next Tuesday, right, Cécile?
Yes, no, the talk is on Wednesday. But yeah, for us in Biel, it's quite difficult because we speak two languages, so we always have to make the things twice. So flyers in French, flyers in German, and talks in French, talks in German. Yes, it's quite tricky, but also interesting. But it's a lot more of work. So we will report our results. Let's see.
All right.
Thank
Is
you
that
very
it?
much for your advices and everything. Really helpful.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me talk about what I'm doing. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. If we hit on any big breakthrough, we'll share back with the wider mobilization community.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about what's going on, what happens. I would love to hear it.
We'll document it.